Oh, fantastic. Look at that. We're getting folks in. Yay. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We're so glad you're here. We're going to give it just a few minutes. We had an awesome idea about sharing music beforehand, and we didn't practice it, so it didn't work. So I hope everyone's got some coffee or whatever your morning beverage is. I hope you have a comfortable chair. The weather's starting to change. It's a beautiful day in California. And we'll give it just a few more minutes and then open up. We had a whole lot of folks sign up for this webinar. We're really, really excited that folks are here, and congratulations, everybody, on receiving your grants. That's so fantastic. We're really excited. We're going to give it one more minute, and then I'm going to introduce an awesome, amazing colleague to get us started. Please feel free to jump in the chat, say hello, tell us where you're from. Oh, look, there's some folks I know. There's Sal. Yay. There's Richard. Excellent. Hello, Brian. Good morning. Good morning, McKenna. Fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And I would like to introduce my dear friend and colleague, Diane Crum from the California Department of Education.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Diane Crum. I'm an education programs consultant at the Department of Education, and I have the pleasure to welcome you to today's Career Ladders Project webinar entitled Using Data to Inform Equity. And as we know, dual enrollment is really a powerful strategy for equity. And over the last few weeks, I've had the pleasure of traveling the state, visiting the schools who won the Exemplary Dual Enrollment Award. And I've seen firsthand how these schools provide equitable access to all students. And I'm sure you'll find this webinar extremely helpful in understanding how to use data effectively to strengthen dual enrollment programs that benefit our most underrepresented students. Thank you again for all that you do to serve our students, and congratulations on the grant, and enjoy the webinar. And now I will turn it back over to Naomi. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Diane is off running across the state, so she's going to say goodbye and go hang out with another dual enrollment partnership. So super, super exciting. So thank you, everyone, for being here. We have some awesome topics and some fantastic folks to share their experience and resources and examples with you. First, we are going to talk about the equity imperative of dual enrollment. Then we're going to explore some data sources, some publicly available data sources, and some examples of really fantastic data sources that folks have pulled together. We're going to hear from our colleagues from the Education Trust West on the Jumpstart report. And we've got a very special guest from LA Valley College who's going to give us a really cool example of a program to really increase equity in dual enrollment at LA Valley. So let's go ahead and get started with Laurencia. And of course, let me tell you one more thing, apologies. If you're not already familiar with the Career Ladders Project, we're a nonprofit. We work with community colleges and their partners across the state. We promote equity-minded community college redesign, and that includes redesigning that front door to the college, opening those doors wider so we have more folks enter, especially my area is especially focused on working with that transition from high school to college. We do research, we disseminate effective practices, and we do policy work. But probably lots of you already know us. So I see so many friends and colleagues here. So let's move on to our dear colleague, Laurencia. Oh, I'm sorry. It's almost as if I didn't do these. This is our CLP team. We've got Laurencia Walker, who's going to take us away in a few minutes. And our Wizard of Oz behind the scenes today is Christina Sandoval, who's a senior program associate. She makes everything happen here at CLP. And now for Laurencia.
Thank you so much, Dr. Castro, for that wonderful welcome, Diane from CDE, and all of you for joining us here today. this is going to be a refresher for a lot of you here on the call, but just for some grounding, we all know the equity imperative as it relates to dual enrollment, because we know it's increasing both nationally and statewide. And we know when we look at data quantitatively that there's still some equity gaps. So that means there's still a great opportunity for improvement and increasing access and success, which we are all going to work together to help achieve. When we look at the opportunities for the greatest opportunity to reduce those equity gaps, data has shown that the college and career access pathways, also known as CCAP, dual enrollment, is one of those ways. And in fact, data shows that it's one of the more effective ways to reach some of those equity goals. As we are endeavoring to increase access in a more equitable manner, it's important that we're all mindful of the various minoritized student populations, how they interact with our institutions, and also the intersecting identities which students identify as that participate in dual enrollment as we speak to access and success in this space. So what does that mean in terms of what does the actual data say in reports that are available? On the next slide, we wanted to share that nationally, we know that there are some students that are effectively shut out of dual enrollment. This nationwide study that looked at a cohort of students over a period of time saw that English language learners and students with disabilities were some of the largest student populations across the state that were shut out for dual enrollment. And as you see, the chart shows other racialized and minoritized groups fall into those categories as well. And so again, important to be mindful of these populations and also the intersecting identities in which students identify as. On the next slide, when we drill down a little bit more closely into California, UC Davis's Wheelhouse has a very important study that came out and showed that when we look at high school only dual enrollment, which is that lower section of the chart with the dotted line, that is where, in fact, the equity gaps are decreased. The chart at the top, those lines at the top, the solid line shows all dual enrollment. And when you look towards the bottom, that is high school only dual enrollment, which encompasses CCAP. So as you can see, those gaps are in fact decreased, unfortunately still exist. So again, opportunity to grow in that area. And then on the next slide, we have some data from a recently published study from PPIC. We encourage all of you to read that study as well, that looks at the data in terms of Latino students comprise 53% of the total 12th grade students in California. And when they look at the CCAP participation in California specifically, Latino students rank at 58%. So definitely some increase there and exciting news. There's still some opportunities for growth when we look at the numbers. They have shown that the underrepresented groups have been quantified as Black and white students. We know that when we look at racialized groups and historically underserved, that there's some more data that we can analyze within the context of this data point here. And we also know that in terms of gender identity, students that identified as male were underrepresented, and about 43% of CCAP participants identified as first-generation college students. So a lot of data out there, which is really exciting, that we can look at and compare, contrast, or even replicate within our local context to see how, in fact, we are becoming more equitable, increasing equitable access and success in our dual enrollment partnerships. And on the next slide, I'll turn it over to Dr. Castro to give you some very tangible examples of how you can compile this data at the local level with some live demos right now. Dr. Castro.
Fantastic. So we're going to go through a handful of data sources. These first two, now you may, depending on if you're with K12 or community college, you may be more or less familiar with them. The first one is Data Mart. And we're going to explore Data Mart a little bit, and we'll drop some links in the chat for you. Then the next is Data Quest. So Data Mart is for the community college system. Data Quest is for the K12 system. And then we're going to show some dashboards that different organizations have put together. There's the Fresno K16 Collaborative dashboard, which is pretty fantastic and covers lots of different segments. And then El Camino College, where I used to work, has a wonderful dual enrollment dashboard that we're going to go to as well. But first, if I can go ahead and share screen. Thank you. Okay, so for my community college colleagues, this is probably very familiar. It is Data Mart. I'm going to drop that link in the chat. There you go. And I encourage you to explore. There's lots of ways to explore, but when we're looking for dual enrollment data, there's a couple of places we can find it. So the first place we're going to go to is, let's see, we are at home. We're going to go to students. Here we go. And then we can go to right here, enrollment status. Now, you all have at least heard the term, or you might be very familiar with the term special admit. So students who are in high school and also in college, or students who are in an adult ed program pursuing a high school diploma or a GED and are in community college, are considered special admits. That's their enrollment status. So we're going to go right there, enrollment status, and we're going to set the parameters. Let's do a college-wide search. And I am going to, we can pull up any of these colleges. This is live, but we're going to look at, I am also an adjunct instructor at Compton College. So we're going to pull up Compton. And then the way we search this is by term, right? So we have all of the terms. And then, you know, it always takes a while. The data is a little bit lagging, right, for colleges to upload. So we're going to look at last spring. And then I did do this before, so there should be no surprises here. So we're going to look at Compton's data. So check it out. And these are the enrollment status of the student. First-time students, first-time transfer, returning, continuing, uncollected or unreported. And then here we go, special admit students. And we can see that there's just under 1,500 students. It's a very large percentage of the total enrollment at Compton, over 35%. And then if we want to dig down a little deeper, we can disaggregate. So we're going to disaggregate by ethnicity, and then you just ask it to update. Now I'm going to close, these are those cascading kind of menus. So I'm going to close a bunch of those because very interesting, but we want to focus on special admit students. So we can see that there were 109 African-American students, a little over 7%, 7.5%. Only 2 Native students, 110 Asian students, and then we go over onto the next page, 51 Filipino students, and then we can see the bulk of the students, which is indicative of the high school population. Over 1,000 students were classified as Hispanic, so that's about 3/4 of the students, and so on. Now, you can also download these reports. You can download it as Excel, CVS, or text, and you just press that export button. So I am going to pause. We're going to go back. I'm going to pause right there and see if we have any questions in the chat about Data Mart. And yes, we'll share the PowerPoint. Okay, so there is another way, and Christina, you let me know if a question pops up. There's another way to look at students in Data Mart. If we go under student services, so student services, and we can look over here to special populations, and let's see, let's do a district-wide search. So we'll do a very large search, and let's look for Los Angeles Community College District, big district, and then let's look at fall, just to give a different look. And then check it out. There are all these special populations. So when students do the enrollment process, they're in a special population. These are populations that are dictated to us, right? They are given a special flag in our system. And so there's CalWORK students, there's DSPS students, there's first-gen students, formerly incarcerated students, but there's also CCAP students. So we can see that in LACCD, there's a head count of just under 8,000 CCAP students. So that is another way to look at the data. So you can also go in and try and find the CCAP students. Okay, so there are some great questions. Yeah.
Yes, I was just gonna get to that. There's a question and a comment. So the first one is, when will fall 2023 information be available?
Oh, well, so we're in the fall right now. So probably not until mid-spring or to the end of spring. There's 116 community colleges, and they're all going to be uploading their data. The other thing that's very important, so it might be available for some and not all, so that just kind of depends. And the other thing that's really important to understand is that colleges may continuously re-upload data, right? So this is a snapshot in time. So there may be, LACCD has got a lot of colleges. Maybe one college had a hiccup in their data system and they didn't upload this, or maybe it got tagged in a wrong way and they found it and made a correction. So they might re-upload. So these numbers will change. And so when you do download your reports, it always tells you the date that it was downloaded. So if you're going to be using them in a report or something, it would be important to put that date in. So like, as of September 19th, here's what the number said. And that kind of just gives a nod to that these might change. And then there was a comment as well.
Yeah, there's someone who mentioned that their data mart screen does not show the same tab at the top as what they're seeing on your end.
Yeah, I don't know how to fix that one. What I would say is explore. There's lots of different ways to look at data mart. They come up in different, like if we look under student services, all of these tabs right here also show up when I hover over the different, the tabs at the top. So I would just say I'm sorry, we don't have the same screens. You just have to explore. I'm also using Safari as a browser, so that might be different. I know a lot of people use Chrome.
And we have one more question. Why
Sure.
would CCAP not be listed under our local college that we have a CCAP agreement with?
Oh, so so again, you have to make sure you're under student services and then special populations, and then you would go to the college. So you do college-wide search, find the college and a term. It might be because they haven't yet activated the data element that flags those students. That's totally possible. Or it could be that they're making adjustments to it. So they're inputting the data now, or they might just not have it activated yet. If they don't have that flag activated yet, they're not going to show up, even though they're there. So then you might also just look for special admit students, and that would give you an idea. But those special admit students are going to be students coming to the college on their own, CCAP students, early college students, middle college students. And if there's non-CCAP MOUs, those students will be in there as well. So it's imperfect. It's not exactly what we want, but it's something. All right, cool. So I'm going to jump on. I am a little bit behind in time here, so I'm going to jump into DataQuest really quick. So for our community college partners, you might not be familiar with this, but our high school partners probably are. So this is the publicly available data. You can drill down into so many different reports. So I'm going to select school level. And then you'll see you can do the dashboard, the additional dashboard reports, like so many different things. I'm just going to do annual enrollment data. And then I have a son at Torrance High School. So let's type in Torrance right here and check it out. We've got Torrance Elementary, Torrance High. And we can choose from all of these different areas. Multi-year, subgroup, grade, and so on. I'm going to choose enrollment by ethnicity and grade. And here we go. So for Torrance High, there are 87 African-American students, and this is what grades they're in. There's only 2 Native students who are counted as such. We've also talked about how often Native students are counted in multiracial category. 2 or more races, a lot of students, only 13 students not reported. And then here we go. And then it also gives you some additional data, right? So there's Torrance High, total enrollments. We can also look up to Torrance Unified, LA County, and statewide, which is kind of nice because then you can see kind of like what size the school I'm looking at is in comparison to the other schools. So this kind of information may help you if you're going to replicate some of the data we have in Jumpstart. But now I'm going to go lightning fast, and I'm going to show you our colleagues from the Fresno K16 Collaborative. The collaborative is now actually the Fresno Madera K16, but this dashboard is just for Fresno County. And if you look up here, let's see, maybe I can increase my screen size. There are all these different tabs: course taking behavior, participation, success rate, AP exams, dual enrollment availability, and so on. So we're just going to look at the first one, which is head count. And so they have students, career technical ed, and dual enrollment. So check that out. So this is in Fresno. The data is lagging, right? So this is a continuous challenge for all of us, but we're also the ones who get those reports that say, you got to upload your data. And so we know how that goes. And then we can see how the data has changed with different groups. Very exciting stuff. And you could drill down into some of the other tabs as well. Look at course taking behavior, for example. You could look at participation and so on. So I encourage you to explore that. And then I'm going to very quickly show you our colleagues from El Camino College. I used to work there. It's a fantastic college, great high school partnerships. Their data dashboard, publicly available. It's on their website. You can drill down by students, academic term. You can see all the different high schools, department, division, and so on. And now I did want to take a pause too, because we have two different things here. We've got enrollments and unduplicated students. And so for us, unduplicated student, that's an individual student, right? Enrollment is every time a student is in a course. So you might have one student taking 3 courses. For under enrollments, they would count as 3, right? But under student head count, they would count as 1. And then on the bottom, you can scroll to the different screens. You can have the information disaggregated by race, by the student's age at the start of the term, by gender, student outcomes, by course, right? So these are all the courses, success and completion rates, GPA, completion and success. And then again, we can just disaggregate by a number of different things: gender and success, success and completion by race and ethnicity, and so on. So that was a ton of information. But I think you have some examples of a lot of different ways to access data and some examples of how partnerships have come up with different data sources. So now I'm going to turn it over to my dear colleague, Camille, from the Education Trust West.
Awesome. Thanks, Naomi. So my name is Camille Medrano. I'm a senior associate with the Education Trust West. We are a research, policy, and advocacy organization. We do TK through higher ed, and one of our priorities is dual enrollment. So I'm here to talk about a report and data tool that we have related to equity and dual enrollment. So our Jumpstart report, setting goals to drive equitable dual enrollment participation in California's community colleges, was released towards the end of 2021. And what it does is provide an overview of California's dual enrollment landscape. So sort of in the context of the start of the pandemic and that impacting enrollments generally. And it's a time to really think about equitable student participation in college courses, right? It also provides the context of CCAP courses. And in particular, the bulk of the report is an analysis of Black, Latinx, and Native American student participation in dual enrollment courses across California's 72 community college districts. So a couple things from that CCAP data Naomi just shared. We know that Latinx students participate in CCAP courses in particular with a little bit more parity, right? But we know that there are other student groups who still aren't quite able to access dual enrollment courses at those same equitable rates. And something I do want to name too is that we didn't name Asian American students in this report because we see that participation rates are at parity, but if we were to disaggregate that data, it might look a little bit different. So just wanted to name that too. And the report talks about 3 key findings across the participation data and talks about ways that data can be used to then set equity goals, right, towards those equitable dual enrollment outcomes. And alongside the report, there are also in-depth data appendixes that come along with it. So here is a link to the report, so you can use that later on down the line, but yeah, provides that sort of written context to some data and shares about the key findings as well. But more importantly, alongside that report, we have a data tool. So I'll talk about that on this next slide. So here's sort of what the data tool will look like. The tool itself shows the map of California, and then you'll toggle between the 3 different student groups we uplift in the report. So that's, again, Black, Latinx, and Native American students. And for each community college district, you'll see 3 metrics. So that first metric is a participation score. And this really just measures the extent to which students are able to access those dual enrollment courses, but in line with proportion of dual enrollment participants that identify with a racial or ethnic group to the proportion of high school students in that same group. So sort of matches up that like the K12 side and the higher ed data, doing our best to overlay that, right? So that's our participation score. Second, we have what we call an equity rating. So based on that participation score, the equity rating identifies how equitable a given community college district's dual enrollment participation is for that particular racial or ethnic group. So you'll see that little chart on the bottom right-hand side. A community college district is noted as high representation if that participation score is between 90 and 100%. It's noted as moderate representation if it's between 70 and 89.9%. And then it's low representation if it's below 69.9%. And then the third metric you'll see is a representation goal. So the cool thing about this tool is not only does it show those metrics of what's currently happening, the participation score, the equity rating, it also shows a goal. So how many more students of a particular racial or ethnic group would the community college district need to enroll in a dual enrollment course in order to achieve parity? So at the same time, we recognize that many community college districts are already at parity with some of their student groups. And we use this to think about what can the district do to support student groups if they already have achieved parity. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. But given those 3 metrics, I think it's a helpful tool to just kind of understand where your community college district is at. And again, recognize that this data is from 2019 to 2020. So yeah, it's a little outdated, but I think it still gives you a helpful starting place for sure. All right, and we'll go to the next slide. So again, here's a closer look at that mapping tool. So in a second, I'll do a live demo, but here's sort of a verbal one. So we'll look at Latinx student participation, particularly for Citrus Community College District, so kind of in the San Gabriel Valley. So you'll zoom in on a community college district within that state map, and then a little text box will appear. And then that text box is what holds the 3 different metrics. So we see that community college or Citrus Community College District has a participation score of 97%. And that gives it an equity rating of high representation. Even though there is already high representation, to achieve 100% parity in participation score, the representation goal would be 13 more students. So if Citrus Community College District enrolls 13 more Latinx students into a dual enrollment course, it will have achieved parity. And another thing to note, when we take a look at the map in a sec, you'll see some lighter shading, some darker shading. The darker the shading, the more equitable, higher participation rates you'll see. And that bit.ly link there will take you to the mapping tool. And then if you go to the next slide, I have a QR code up for you all to follow along, or you can also follow along at this link, but I will share my screen in just a sec here, and we'll do a little live demo. Cool, thank you. All right. So here's what you'll see once you get to that mapping tool homepage. You'll see some context at the top, but to actually get to the tool, you're going to scroll down. There's a little bit of instruction if you want to take time to do this later on your own as well. This is the main portion you'll want to focus on. So you'll see you can toggle between Latinx students, Black students, and Native American students. I'll zoom in a little bit as well. So let's start with Latinx students, for instance. Here is that map you saw an image of earlier. And if we kind of hover, you can already see it, the text box with the 3 metrics pops up for each community college district. You'll notice some with that are blank appearing. That just means that the student population for that particular student group is under 11 students. So we're not using the data there. So you could either, click on a particular area you're interested in, but let's take a look at a specific district. So you can use this drop down here, and I'll pull up Chaffee, for instance. So if it shows Chaffee down here, you can zoom in, and then we'll hover over, and we see that Chaffee Community College District has a participation score of 93%. So that gives it an equity rating of high representation. And then Chaffee would only need to enroll 42 more Latinx students to achieve full representation of Latinx students in dual enrollment. So that's kind of how you'd speak to those metrics, right? And then I would recommend taking a look at all 3 student groups. So if we look at Black student participation, and then we'll go to Chaffee again. And then we zoom in and we hover over, and we see that for Black students in particular, the participation score is at 81%, and that gives it an equity rating of moderate representation. However, Chaffee would only need to enroll 10 more Black students in order to achieve parity. So that's a good starting point to think about how to use this data and how to use it for goal setting, right? And again, just because you're at high representation, 100%, 0 students needed to achieve representation, can always enroll more in that particular student group, and make sure the students that are in dual enrollment courses are set up for success and supported in the ways they need. And then quickly, I'll also show Native American students, and I will name for our Native American students in particular, you'll see like smaller student sizes, which we know, but yeah, same deal. Can do this for each of your student groups for your community college district. Great. All right. And then once you want to go back to a blank map, you can just click that first tab and that'll take you there. So I'll stop sharing. And then if you were maybe following along on your own, maybe not, but definitely use this tool moving forward. And I have one more slide, I think, that just kind of talks about how to use it. So you'll want to use it for your own community college district, but the best data will be at that local level. So I think those tools that Naomi just shared, looking at that local level with your own data is going to be super helpful. But using the Jumpstart report and sort of the ideas of the tool to set your own goals, I think is going to be an especially great combination to make sure you're setting goals for equity. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll pass it to Brandon.
All right, good morning, everyone. I am Brandon Hildreth. I am an academic dean at Los Angeles Valley College. I've been working in the California community college system for about 8 years now. I'm working with dual enrollment in various capacities. And so I'm here to share with you one of the programs that we will be launching this spring, which is the Men of Color High Achievers Program, which it's a grant-funded project through the California Community Foundation, the Los Angeles Scholarship Investment Fund. And so we received $120,000 to launch this learning community that's specifically for men of color, creating pathways to dual enrollment for men of color. And we can move to the next slide. And so, as I shared with you, we received $120,000, and the goal really is to increase access for for men of color, specifically focusing on Black and Hispanic males. And so, as you all probably know, there's been a growing decline in enrollment in college men, and that's a national trend as well as a trend within the California community college system. And so when we developed this program, it basically birthed out of us wanting to create a learning community for Black students, because we recognized that was a huge gap. But we found this, but we applied for a grant through what was it? What was the organization? It escapes me. It was a takeoff grant through USC. And that was a national competition. Unfortunately, we didn't get it. It was focusing on men of color. So we designed this program, and we found this opportunity through LACEP to fund it. And so we built this based off of things that we're already doing at the college, like dual enrollment, guided pathway, first experience, to create a tailored experience for men of color. And so we're looking to serve around 120 students throughout the duration of the grant, but we would like to have cohorts of 40, because we want to create a very high touch, high engagement program for students, because we know that, for some of the men that we may be working with, they will need that additional support so that they can stay on track. One of the things that I forgot to add to this slide is that we are really striving for those students who aren't enrolled in dual enrollment or in an AP class. So those students who are on the margins, who may not necessarily see college as their choice after high school. And so as we were designing this program, and we can move to the next slide, we looked at some data points that were available through with our local school district, LAUSD, Los Angeles Unified School District. And so as you can see on this slide, when we look at and what is this? English readiness. So this is college readiness. So this program is geared towards men who are in their 12th grade year in high school. So looking at 11th graders preparedness for college level English, when you look at Black and Hispanic students, and this is broad, this is not disaggregated by gender, only 15.8% of students are ready for college level English, and only 22% are ready for college level English. And so as you can see, we're looking at, we use data to look at these disproportionately impacted groups to see, where are the gaps and where are our students before we actually receive them as potential dual enrollment students. And we can move to the next slide. And we did the same for math, because those two disciplines are the ones that we're prioritizing for this program, because we all have our, in LACCD, we have our first year experience goals, where we want to make sure that students are enrolling in English and math and completing their first year of college, because as we know, once they complete those classes, it creates a more positive experience for them as they continue their education at the community college, and well, it prepares them for other classes that they'll take while at our institution. And so this particular slide, we're looking at the math, the readiness for college level math among African American and Hispanic students. And so as you can see, they are even less prepared for math and English. So as you can see, African American students, only 5.1% of 11th graders are prepared for college level math, and for Hispanic and Latino students, 8.5. And we can move to the next slide. And so this is what we've used to kind of help frame the conversation around prep courses for our dual enrollment students and faculty who are to get buy-in for this particular program. So as I mentioned to you, we have our first year experience, which is called LA Promise here at within the LACCD district. And this is just a snapshot of college level completion. I'm going to show you a slide for Black students in English, and then the next one is going to be in math and Hispanic. So as you can see, last year, only 51% of Black male students completed transfer level English within their first year. So as you can see, that's something that we recognize as something we need to address it by way of perhaps this dual enrollment program. And moving on to the next slide. And so, and the same for math and Hispanic students. So when we filter data by math and Hispanic male, only 44.7% of those of students at Los Angeles Valley College. I'm sorry, this is data specific to LAVC, completed transfer level math within their first year. And so these are things that we use to build this program. We haven't launched it yet. We'll be launching it in the spring. We're working with our English department to create non-credit English prep classes that the students will take before they enroll in the English, our English 101 class, which is the transfer level English class, to help improve success rates in the class. And also our math department is creating non-prep classes for the students in this program, which we hope to use for all of our dual enrollment students, because we know that for many of our school districts that we serve, you know, some of the students complete their high school math requirement their sophomore year, and they may not take math again until they're in the community college. So these prep classes are really help to kind of address some of those readiness, address some of the data that you saw in the previous slides around just the readiness of some of our students, or preparedness, I should say, for math, college level math and English. And I believe that might be the last slide. Oh, no, one more. And so these are the schools that we have decided to prioritize. So as you can see, we're using data a lot to inform the design of this program, also our outreach strategies. And so we have around, I want to say 20 high schools within our service area, and definitely more than 10 within LAUSD. But we looked at the population of those high schools. And so, and also the preparedness, the English and math preparedness of the students at those schools. And so, as you can see, we've created this grid to help us determine which school should we prioritize. Because, you know, a lot of our schools, by nature of geography and the way that our communities are situated, are already predominantly Hispanic. And so, you know, one of the things that we wanted to make sure is that we are connecting with students that may have a larger Black population, so that we can do some targeted outreach approaches to connect those students. And also, you know, using the math and English preparedness to also demonstrate why this work is important. And I think that might be it.
We have a couple questions for you, if you don't mind me asking them from the chat. So one of them is, have y'all, the Royal Y'all, examined, followed BIPOC dual enrollment male students post K12? Are they attending community colleges, UC, CSU, etc.?
Well, so again, we receive this funding in the summertime. So right now we are in the process of implementing it and launching it in the spring. So right now I'm working with LAUSD to work through the outreach strategies, because right now they love the program and want to make it open it up to more students. And so right now we're still in conversations with LAUSD. I'm working with our campus departments to get the non-credit classes up and going. And so we're still in the planning stages. But the great thing about this grant is that, you know, we have the ability to kind of pivot if need be. There's a lot of flexibility, you know, with some of the grants, you have like very you can't really move a lot. You can't, unless you get it approved through your grant officer. But with this particular grant, we have the flexibility to make changes, see what works, what doesn't. And we hope to make changes that are in the best interest of the students and the goal of the project. Hopefully that answers the question. I think there was one more.
We have how do you collaborate with your high school partners to engage these students and also to recommend they take math and English courses? What high school year are you recommending students to take these courses?
Oh, that's a good question. Is my internet okay?
Yes, you're back.
I think I may have frozen.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh no. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so how collaborate the high school to engage the students also. So yes, I can hear you. So I will answer this in two ways. One, because I have two experiences recommending math courses, one in the Central Valley at College of the Sequoias and one now here. And so when it comes to math courses, some of the things that I have taken into consideration was the units, because math classes tend I don't want to say 10, but at my previous institution, they could be anywhere from 4 to 5 units, depending if there was a co-requisite. So when you think about it, am I frozen again?
No, you're fine. We can hear you. We can hear you. We can hear you. Can you hear us? Oh, maybe he is frozen now.
I think as we wait for Brandon, there might have been one question for Camille, Christina.
Yes. Yeah, I can go ahead and ask that. Let me scroll up. Going back to the Jumpstart data, how are we measuring first generation college representation? How do we ensure that representation is not only AP and YP?
Yeah, this is a great question. So the Jumpstart data is limited in scope to that of Latinx, Native American, and Black students. But I think the methodology, which is kind of talked about in the report itself, could be replicated for other student populations. So we really are just focused on those 3 underrepresented student groups. So unfortunately, we don't have first generation students tracked in that report and within our data tool. But I think, again, some of the data tools Naomi shared earlier are ways for you to do that at the local level. Yeah, hopefully that answered the question.
I would just chime in and say that this is one of the reasons that data sharing is so important. And we know that K-12s collect so much more data and so much more granular data than the colleges collect or are able to collect at the moment. We all have really high hopes for the Cradle to Career data system. It has not come out yet. We're not quite ready for prime time yet, but we do definitely have high hopes. Our colleagues at Oakland Unified School District have a dashboard. It is not publicly available, but it's a dual enrollment dashboard that they collect so much information: first generation status, language status, if a student is on an IEP or a 504 plan, like just so much rich data that really helps to plan interventions for students, and especially like kind of, being able to plan common interventions that might be helpful.
We have one more question in the chat, and I think that's for you, Camille. So this goes back to previous presenter. What were the 3 participation rates and percentages?
Yeah, so the 3, I think you're referencing like the equity ratings, right, that go along with those participation rates. So the 3 sort of equity ratings were high representation, which, as you name, it's 90 to 100%, and then moderate representation, which is 70% to 89.9%, and then low representation we named as anything 69.9% and under that.
Oh, I did want to just add in the awesome question that was the Royal Y'all question about students post K-12. So we did do a longitudinal study with our colleagues in the Kern Community College District. And one of the things that they found was while there was still underrepresentation of Black students in dual enrollment, that when Black students did participate in dual enrollment, their post-secondary going rate was on par with other students. So they had reached parity in that metric. But I would also just kind of encourage folks to, there's another public, well, it's not publicly available. You have to have a subscription, but there is the National Student Clearinghouse has data as well. And most community colleges do have subscriptions. And so that would be a fantastic way to kind of work for K-12s to work with their local community college, their partner, and find out where students might be going afterwards. And then it does rely on the kind of information that the universities then upload to the Student Clearinghouse, which is sometimes incomplete, but we can usually, so we might not have completion data because they might not track that, but we do have, like, did they transfer in? And there's a great staffing question there too. It was a question for Brandon, which unfortunately, you know, the perils of the internet. But I'm wondering, Laurencia, you were of us on the call, you have most recently worked in a community college in dual enrollment. Can you speak to staffing either from your experience at Hartnell or maybe give some examples?
Sure, there's definitely a wide array, as some of you probably know, of different staffing models. So in my experience, we had a director, which was my position, and a program assistant, and we worked very closely with our internal stakeholders, various deans and program assistants throughout the campus, and of course with our high school partners. There are other structures where it is built out. For example, in a multi-college district, an example with Kern, we know they have an early college office, and then that's replicated at their various sites, and it has an overall director and then some coordinators and then support staff as well. In another one of our partner districts, we know that there's a dean of dual enrollment and then 2 counselor coordinators. So again, various structures throughout the state and different models work differently. And then we're seeing an emergence of academic advisors supporting various pathways at the community college level, and then some support on the high school side as well with either district level staff or college counselors, college and career counselors on the high school side supporting these efforts as well. So several models out there.
And some folks have employees who are either cross-institutional or might be paid for by one institution and then are housed at another institution. And so we see that a lot too. Our colleagues at Long Beach have, with the Long Beach Promise, have some employees that work for everybody, but then they're housed at the university. Thank you, Christina. Let's move on to, we are in our wrap up phase, right? And so we wanted to let folks know we will be doing a much deeper, longer presentation workshop as a post-conference session for the Strengthening Student Success Conference, which is an awesome and amazing conference. And we're going to be in Burlingame. So we're going to be up in the Bay Area this year in October. It's a great way to welcome in the fall. So I'm going to pause there for a second so folks can use their phone, get that QR code going. And again, we will send these slides out to everybody. And then let's go on to the next one. I know a lot of folks were at the Dual Enrollment Equity Conference that had its inaugural conference last year, our first one that was in Bakersfield. This year, it is going to be in Long Beach. So we're moving closer to home. It's going to be in February, the 20th through the 23rd. We're going to have some awesome pre-conference sessions. We're organizing some really cool site visits on the far end. And it's just going to be awesome and amazing. So I really, really encourage folks to go to that as well. And then I also wanted to remind folks there are some, so this webinar series has 2 parts to it. And there are some folks who had an invitation to a second piece. So if you were invited to the follow-on meeting that's going to happen after this, just a reminder that it is a separate Zoom link, and you should have that. But don't worry, there's going to be lots more dual enrollment stuff coming at you. And then just as Linda chimed in the chat, you can also, for the Strengthening Student Success Conference, you can just register for the post-conference session. We're going to be really focusing on the Chancellor Sonia Christian's 9th grade to baccalaureate strategy, where she has challenged colleges invited colleges to plan dual enrollment for at least 12 units of college credit while students are still in high school, starting as early as the 9th grade. And we've got tons of information on that, and lots of activities that kind of help us plan that and think through what that might look like. So it'll be really, really exciting. So we've got 2 minutes left. If there's any other questions you have, the time is now to drop them in the chat. Otherwise, we will chill out, and we will see some of you in a few minutes, and the rest of you we will see all over the state. And we're so glad you were able to join us.